Oh my goodness. It's us.
It's us.
It's been so long.
It's been so long, but we're here.
We're here. It's a whole different
The
background.
backgrounds have changed.
Oh my gosh. I'm like a little bit in shock. People might not know who we are. Hey, I'm Jen. Hey.
Hi, and I'm Daren.
And I don't know if people know this, but we're that black couple.
Yep.
They
That's who
probably
we
don't
are.
recognize me either because my locks are so long.
They're so long, and they're a gorgeous reddish hue. Um, you know, getting ready for fall, getting ready
Mm-hmm.
for autumn.
Sorry, I ain't got no sense. Anyway,
No, you don't.
this is episode 9 of That Black Couple. We are back. Grab some water that I don't have. Just grab it.
Ooh, I left my water. That's not good.
We both forgot ours, but we've been doing good. We actually have been drinking it, so
A lot.
don't judge us. We're just really busy. It's okay. And look, it's dark outside. It's a long day. So don't do that, okay? Have a seat. This is That Black Couple. Before we get started, make sure you follow us on Threads, not that other place, on Instagram at That BOK Couple. Follow us on Facebook at That Black Couple. And look us up on the internet at www.thatblackcouple.com.
You can stream our episodes anywhere podcasts are streamed. That includes Apple Podcasts, it includes Spotify, it includes Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, all those places. Wherever you stream your podcasts, you can find us there. Most importantly, you can now find us on YouTube. Look at our beautiful faces while you listen to our great, intriguing conversation. So make sure you subscribe to us. Make sure you like our videos over there on YouTube. And remember, we also have a Substack. Join that Substack. That's where you can get all the really cool information. You can stay in touch with us. We also have writing bulletins to support creatives and writers so that they can get paid for the work that they create. So make sure you tap in.
Oh my gosh, we're back.
Yeah,
What's
we're
this
all the way
episode
back.
about? I think we're talking about food because this is the season to talk about that.
'Tis the season for
Yes, this episode is about Black food and Black gender. And I've been wanting to talk about this for quite some time because niggas get on my nerve. And I think it's necessary that we have a conversation about the ways that folks gender food and gender the work of feeding one another in our community. I'm sure it's not just our community, it's a larger set of social constructs that we'll get into. But let's start with first thing first. Are you ready to get started?
You know I'm ready.
Okay, let's talk about you, Darren.
We can talk about me.
Let's start by talking about you. Uh,
We can talk about me. It's fair.
and your relationship to food and who Darren was when we met Darren. Let's
Now, I want to start off by saying I am a Taurus, so you know I love food.
mm-hmm.
You know I love to eat. So food has been a
Mm-hmm.
major component of my life, much more than it is for many other people.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, growing up, I had a single mother household, and we made it happen the way it was going to happen when it came to food. It was, I ate a lot of stuff from restaurants. I ate a lot of stuff that was somewhat quick and easy to make based upon the time constraints that we had.
Mm-hmm.
But what I always find interesting when I think about how I grew up in relationship to food was that I had a great mother. She
Mm-hmm.
trained me how to be a good human being. She
Mm-hmm.
trained me how to manage my money. She trained me to learn how to go to school and be successful. She trained me how to treat people appropriately. She taught me to be open-minded. She taught me a lot of stuff. One thing she did not teach me was how to cook.
That's right. She did not teach you that.
Listen, I could wash clothes,
Yes.
and so it's not even just like a gender thing. I could do a lot of stuff that, is outside of, gender norms. Cooking that was just not on the docket.
No.
That one it fell off the truck. We didn't quite get there in the time that we had in the home together. And I think it's really interesting when you think about like preparing a child for the world and, raising them and giving them all the skills and things that they need to be successful. That's like a core thing that
Yeah.
kind of got left out. Now, I'll say in my mother's defense, I think she trained me to be someone that was capable,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think she knew in a lot of ways that there's stuff that she didn't teach me directly. I would be capable and smart enough to figure it out,
Mm-hmm.
evidenced by the fact that I am now an excellent cook.
You are. Come on. Don't
Thank
jump to the end of the story yet. We're not there
oh,
yet. Don't
thank you.
don't
Thank you. Thank you.
okay.
But I do find it very interesting that that was a piece of growing up that was kinda just not really touched.
No, it was
And it's
not.
not that my mom didn't cook.
Oh, she
It's
cooked.
just
Yeah.
I
Listen,
wasn't
and
I
her
wasn't
dad
brought
was a
into that.
chef, and, she understands food. I mean, she can make any type of meat. I mean, she's a meat whisperer. I mean, give her a roast, a pork leg. I mean, I don't care what it is. It's gonna come out juicy and falling off the bone. But yeah, when we met, you could not make a can of soup.
Nope.
Campbell's soup, the kind
I
that you
mean,
just add water.
theoretically, I could. I had made a lot of frozen meals that required you reading instructions and following instructions, but I think it was very telling that I had never made a can of soup when we
You
met.
microwaved grilled cheese sandwiches growing up. You were
Okay,
micro
I don't know why y'all like to run with this story. I did not microwave grilled cheese sandwiches when I was, I think, 4 years old. I put cheese on a bread and I put it in the microwave and I said, cook it, because I understood that microwaves cook food.
When I was 4, I made grilled cheese sandwiches in a pan. So I just wanna give you I wanna give you a context. And listen, I grew up in a single mother household as well. We were in a different class background as you, and I think that that's part of the conversation here, right? I think there's a class difference as well. And I was scrambling eggs at 4 years old and making pots of rice when I was 8 and grilling cheese sandwiches and making pancakes and breakfast foods and part of it was because my mom wasn't home. And so I knew that I had to go in the kitchen and make myself something to eat. And I also think that it was because of my gender, right? I mean, in my family, men cook. Can they cook as good as the women? No. But can they make food? Yes. Can they make edible things that are tasty? Yes. And I do believe that a lot of that was because of the fact that niggas had to survive, right? And I saw it even growing up with my cousins who had a single mom as well. And we had to figure out stuff to eat. It was like we was in the house, so we're gonna make a tuna casserole today. Everybody had to pitch in. It was just kind of a more of a labor thing. And I think that's kind of what this episode is really getting at, right? About Black food and Black gender and how they're wound up together because of the expectations of certain types of labor and how we have
Yeah.
to move away from this idea that certain labor is for women, certain labor is for men, across this binary gender understanding, and that cooking is gay, or how people sometimes will, by people I mean cisgender heterosexual men, will sometimes do that when really cooking should be a survival technique.
And I think that's an interesting gendered component when you think about it. Like being able to eat is a survival technique, right? And so when you have these gendered roles that people just stick to and they don't kind of deviate from them, it puts you in a place where you're taught that you need somebody else
Right,
to fill in the gaps for you.
right.
If there's going to be cooking happening, I got to have a partner who's going to be here that has that skill because I'm not even going to try. I'm not
Mhm.
even going to figure out how to do the basics. And that I think that's just a really, really problematic thing when it comes to something again that's about your very survival. It doesn't make any sense.
And it's antithetical to who we are as a people, right?
Yeah.
Black folk from the continent, African diasporic folk, like we are people of the land. And so it doesn't even actually speak to the fullness of Blackness when we deny ourselves the kind of relationship to food and the labor of cooking and providing for a family that is inherently in our DNA,
Yeah.
right? And so this is really also about getting back to that.
Yeah, let's get into this conversation.
Let's do it.
Because like you said, we are people of the land. That's our heritage. That's a big part of where we come from as Black people. And so for this conversation, I thought I'd look up some stats around food with Black people, and a lot of that is the actual act of farming, right? It is something that's a big part of our heritage. I know specifically for me, like I have a long line of Black farmers still farming to this day in my family. Right? It's a big part of who we are. Um, but so if we look at the stats, so back in 2022, they did a study. And they said that Black or African American producers operated 32,700 farms covering 5.3 million acres in the US.
Hmm.
That sounds like a lot. Uh,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, it's a significant decline from what has historically been. Um, That's a 90% loss of farmland ownership compared to 100 years ago. 90% loss
Wait, wait, wait. When was this data from?
from 2022.
So you're saying in 1922, we had 90% more farmland than
Mhm,
we had in 2022?
mhm.
Oh,
It feels it feels wrong.
yeah,
But I will say it also makes sense when you think about how times have changed and how people have moved away from farming and moved into the cities and moved into different areas of industry, right? We've in a lot of ways, Black people have moved away from
yeah.
farming.
But it's awful because that means that, I mean, that means that the families are also not keeping the land in their genealogy.
Exactly. And also, I mean, we've seen that in media, right? You think about like Black Sugar, right? It's about I'm
Black
sorry.
sugar.
You think about Queen Sugar, that's what I'm talking about. You think about Queen Sugar, right? Like that was part of the thing was like we have this family land, right? And we need to hold on to it. And you also, I think what's interesting about that show in this conversation is you think about all of the pressures and things that were basically trying to take the land away from them, right?
Yeah,
And that's the other thing too. You have to remember farming is hard. Like even right now, as we're going through these crazy times with this crazy president, right? A lot of farmers of all stripes are
yeah,
complaining about how costs versus profits are not lining up for them, right? Being a farmer is being it's very expensive and it's
yeah,
actually now becoming in a lot of ways not profitable. So a lot of people end up, well, I got to feed myself, I got to survive, I got to give up my land, I can sell the land, right? I can get some kind of value from that and try and do something else. And you think about that 1922, we know what 1922 looked like,
yeah,
and we know what's happened from 1922 to now, right? You
yeah,
can imagine all the reasons and ways that people lost their land.
yeah. I also imagine that that probably had a steep decline during the Great Depression. I imagine that it wasn't like a linear shift over
Yeah.
the whole 100 years. It probably was a huge dip during the Great Depression, and then another like huge dip during the Civil Rights era, and then probably just continued down from there. I imagine.
Yeah. And I mean, when you think about how farms are set up, right? Black farms generally are smaller than like the average US farm, but only 7% of black owned farms had incomes over $50,000 a year
Mm,
compared to 25% of all farms. So again,
mm.
we're now seeing black farmers are disadvantaged. In 2017, nearly half of black operated farms specialized in cattle and dairy production. So like mostly like beef cattle, right? So even in a sense, right, when we're thinking about farms and now realizing, well, almost half of these black owned farms aren't even like really farming the land. It's really just like
Right,
livestock, right?
right.
And you think about a really big news piece now has been about how beef ranchers in the US are like really, really struggling. Like
Yeah,
I think in the last couple of years, it finally became something where they were being like moderately profitable and they've kind of
yeah.
lost all of those gains, right? And so that kind of gives you the profile of why farming is hard and for black people
It's
it's
even
that much
harder.
harder.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that's been really interesting to watch as we've come through the whole COVID era and are struggling to get out of it was the idea of people being able to farm for themselves and to feed themselves, right? And we
Yeah.
saw a lot of urban farms pop up. We saw a lot of people going to their backyards and planting their own things. A 2020 survey found that 25% of consumers were planting their own food gardens because of that
Mhm,
COVID pandemic, right?
mhm,
And so it really shows you that when things get hard, people realize there are some core things that I need to survive.
mhm, mhm.
And I think when we go through these really hard times and we realize how we're dependent on things external to us, we realize I need to be more self-sufficient. And
Yeah.
food is like a vital component of that.
Yeah. I mean, we're one of those families, right? I think, we started our real kind of gardening experience during the COVID pandemic, and partly because, and I shouldn't say during, it's still happening, right? COVID is here and it will always be here. But in those early 2 years between 2020 and 2022, that's when there was so much uncertainty around food, around, paper goods, around access to healthcare. All these things were kind of in the air. And so folks were trying to figure out all these new ways to survive. And, we started growing food out in the backyard. We got all these plants in the house. We're still, doing the plant thing. And it was a really wonderful time because I think that was one of those moments where I did see people start to break beyond gender barriers with
Yes.
regards to these issues, right? Like, I always think about like Plant Queen, Kween, and all these like men who were online who were posting like, you know, their love for plants and their love for gardening. There's this whole like
Plant Money.
viral moment of black men, out with they're holding like lettuce, you know what I'm saying? And like collard greens, right? But I hate that it seemed like it took this major like tragedy, this kind of like global pandemic for folks to go, oh, maybe we should have this relationship to the land. Maybe we should get back to who we are and back to our roots. And I think that's kind of what concerns me about this is because I feel like sometimes this conversation goes largely unnoticed until there's some major crisis.
Yeah. But it's unfortunate, but it's also it's good to see that it's happening.
Yeah.
I think that's the bright spot. Like one thing that really stuck out to me when I was doing all this research is there was a study in 2023 that was kind of like about urban farming, and they were studying people in Philadelphia. And they had all these they had 6 focus groups that they were kind of asking all these questions about. And what they found is the top 2 things that people talked about when they were talking about urban farming was community care and relationship building.
Mm.
So it wasn't even about like, well, I got to eat. It was about we need to support our community. We need to support the people that live around us, right? We need
Mhm.
to build that community where we're working together for our own benefit, which is number one, a really great thing to see. Also something going back to our heritage, right? That in a lot of ways is moving away from more American, historically American ideals. But the other thing that was mentioned a lot was spirituality. And I found it so intriguing that when asked about farming, so many people were mentioning a spiritual component to say
Yeah.
it's not just about growing stuff. It's not just about being here with my comrades. It's also about there is a supernatural element
Yeah.
to me interacting with the land. And I think it's really dark that we have to go through these terrible moments for these things to reemerge. But
Yeah.
it's also so heartening to see that those things actually are emerging.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that resonates obviously for us in our family, I think it's absolutely true. And I'm thinking a lot about just like the spirituality and the relationship to food generally that I feel like Black folk have, right? I think about those after church services where you go to the annex and you're eating and you're fellowshipping and how spiritual that experience was for so many of us, and how many of us, even if we are no longer in the church, as millennials, elder millennials in particular, actually all of us, all millennials, right? We have tried to bring that feeling of spirituality and fellowship into our families and households outside of those religious institutions. And a lot of that happens around food, right? I've just seen so many people talking about how we can build community away from the bars and the clubs and, all of that and bring it into these intimate spaces. But I have to admit, I still think it's mostly women and non-binary folk and queer folk that I hear and see talking about this. And I sometimes worry that cisgender heterosexual Black men are being kind of left out of this conversation. And granted, I'm not a heterosexual cisgender Black man. The only thing I got in there is black, I don't understand anything else in there, right? But I worry that there's not enough spaces that help Black men to also benefit from that kind of collaborative environment, that kind of spiritual environment, because of the stigmas associated, the woo-woo nature. What people always say is woo-woo is mushy, but it's like, yeah, okay, but also we need each other. You know what I'm saying? I think especially right now, in this moment where we're living under a regime that is actively working to take food out of children's mouths, to make it harder for folks on SNAP benefits to feed themselves, right? To have access to food, right? We have a government who's like, these are the same people who are like, if you have SNAP benefits, you shouldn't be able to eat steak.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you shouldn't have nice things because you happen to be poor. That's these people. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, I need Black men, cisgender heterosexual Black men to be able to lean in to this community around Black gender and Black labor and Black love and Black food, and away from these institutions and structures like patriarchy and heterophobia and all that stuff that are going to keep them unwell.
And we've talked about gender a lot on this podcast. For anyone listening, if listen, there's the list is long of episodes that we've talked about that are gender related. And I think there's a core principle in that is that the traditional concept of gender does not really serve Black people,
No, it does not.
right? As we're talking about food and relationship to gender, I really sometimes think, right, how tightly do we want to hold on to these gender norms, right? Like, what will be the thing that will break the norm's hold on you?
Mhm.
Right, is it that you can't feed yourself?
Mhm.
Is that big enough of an issue? Is it that we have Black community that's being built that you're just not a part of,
Mhm.
and you should want to be a part of it? Is that the thing that breaks it for you?
Mhm.
What the thing is that breaks it for you? But I just kinda feel like people need to open their minds just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit, think for themselves and say, "What makes sense here?"
Yeah.
Does it make sense that I'm purchasing food from a store and the food's all coming from places I don't know and it has a bunch of chemicals in it and it's overpriced and there's a long laundry list of things of issues related to food that we purchase, right?
Mhm.
Um or does it make more sense to say, "Hey, we're building a community here and we've got this really cool community garden and I see kids are at the garden, they're learning how to interact with
Listen.
the understanding the different types of fruits and vegetables and how those things actually benefit them in their mind and in their body. And that might be a good place for me to meet other people that are like minded, to feel at home, to feel safe, to have respite from the world, right?
Mhm.
How can we do that?
I think we have to do it with young people, right? I think starting off talking about you and me is a really good example, right? Like in my community of poorer working class Black folk, there were just things we was finna do, and one of them was feed each other. I mean, I've gone hungry as a child, as a young person, right? But I also had a lot of places where people was gonna feed me. Friends' moms was gonna feed me, community members was gonna feed me, church folks was gonna feed me, and it was never it was just a generosity, you know what I'm saying? And I always felt like it was one of those things where they knew if they needed to come over and eat at our house, they was gonna get fed too, and I think that, for a lot of cishet Black men, unfortunately, there's this internalization of the patriarchy and this kind of orientation towards scarcity that is all rooted in white supremacist heteropatriarchal capitalism. And it's like, that's just not serving you, boo-boo, right? It's like, I think frequently of the first time I went to Puerto Rico and I was on the beach and this beautiful Black man walks up. I mean, just beautiful. Like, and I don't know if he was queer or not, but the man was just, he was like the most chocolatey, he was muscular. He had this beautiful moisturized curly hair. And I'm like, this is a beautiful young, handsome man. And he gonna tell me he was 50. And I was like, what do you mean? At the time I was like 30. And I was like, I feel oh, he was like, "Yo, y'all just be eating nasty shit." He was like, "I go outside, I go to the tree, I pull the fruit off the tree, I eat the fruit. We get a pig, we cut the pig up, we put the pig in the freezer, we eat the pig. We don't go through no stores. We don't let no white people touch our food. We, you know." And I'm looking at this Black man, and he had a little tiny swimsuit on, booty cheeks with muscles, and I mean, and he was just like, "You thirsty? You hungry? You want?" And I was like. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I really want this for Black men. I really want this so much for all of us. I really want us to be able to see like what could be if we were to lean into the ways that our bodies, our ancestors, and our elders were naturally meant to be,
Yeah.
right? In our natural community with the land and with one another and with what we put in our bodies. Like we could actually be on some real superhero shit. Like we could really actually get them powers we're supposed to get on December 21st. Like, we could actually get them motherfuckers, you know what I'm saying? Just
It
like
just
pulling the fruit off the
it
tree.
requires breaking ego though. A lot of that is
Yeah.
ego, especially when you think about gender. It's a lot of that is just wrapped up in ego, right? It's a lot of not wanting to show vulnerability, not wanting to
Mm.
show weakness, not wanting to show that you don't have the capability to provide for yourself at all times in every facet, right? You got to break that ego. If we can break that ego, then you can kind of lean into the community building, right?
Mhm.
I think that I think that's the biggest barrier.
I think you're right. Ready for
All right,
reflection?
let's reflect.
It's so fast. We did that so quickly. Let's get here. I'm ready. You want to start? Or you want me to start?
I don't know. I can start.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking forward to this episode for a long time. Again, because I'm a tourist and I love food.
Oh my god.
Food is at the center of my life.
Oh my god.
Um, but no, joking aside, like it really is like essential
I
for
know.
me. Like it's really important to me. Like one thing I don't like to do is eat food that don't taste good. Like that was part of the reason I really learned to cook was like I want to be eating good food all the time. I want all my meals to be good. I
Hmm.
want to have a diversity of what I'm eating. I want to eat chicken, I want to eat beef, I want to eat fish, I want to eat like all the vegetables. I want to have them cooked in different ways. I want to have them seasoned in different ways. I want to have different cuisines. I want to switch it up. I want to do all of that stuff. All
Yeah.
right. And that's why it's important that you be able to, feed and nourish yourself and cook the food yourself. And I also really believe that there is like a spiritual link, right? I really, I really do feel like as I've learned to cook,
Hmm.
I really enjoy and appreciate the concept of making food and then giving it to someone else.
Hmm.
Right? There is something about the energies that you are putting into the food, like the intention that you have around the food that you're making,
Hmm.
and then seeing that transformed and transported into someone
Come
else.
on, nigga. You sound like Sarah Michelle Gellar and Simply Irresistible right
I
now.
was I was trying to not bring up that as a reference, but that I mean that's that's really what it like there really is. It's a real thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I make dinner, most nights in this house. Um, and I take that very seriously.
Hmm.
Like today was Taco Tuesday. When we're doing Taco Tuesday, I'm marinating my meat and I'm getting it right. I'm making a
Hmm.
fresh pico de gallo.
Hmm.
I'm getting all the ingredients. I'm lining. I'm
Hmm.
It's intentional, right? If we're going to sit down and we're going to break bread together, right, this is going to be an experience. It's not going to be just, I need to get calories in my body.
Yeah.
It needs to be much more than that.
Yeah. I think so too. And I think one thing that we haven't talked about, right, is that you know, you took the time to learn how to cook, right? You learned ingredients. You learned, do I want to put bok choy in this or I want to put fresh kale or like when we got together, I was cooking everything. It was if
Everything.
we were eating, I was making it. And that was our lives for the first
Years.
10 years that we were together. And it was fine with me because I had grown up, cooking. And then our lives changed. Our lives changed drastically. We had 3 kids. I was exhausted all the time. I was going to graduate school. Like all these things were happening. And it was like, well, if we're going to keep eating good, it's going to have to be a team effort.
Yep.
And you recognizing that, A, you do like to eat and it's like you like it to taste good. And B, it's gonna have to be a shift of labor. You were like, "Okay, let me rearrange my life around this," and we found innovative ways to do it. There was the era where we would, get food and we would get the meat and we would rinse it all off and season it up and marinate it and put it in the freezer ahead of time. And we had our crock pot era where we was like eating everything out of crock pots when the kids were small. Like, we have shifted our tactics and our tools and techniques over time so that we can continue to eat in ways that allow us to feel seen and feel grounded in our bodies, right? Like we were never like, well, I guess we're just gonna start eating Wendy's every night, or I guess we're gonna start
Yeah.
eating McDonald's every night because we realize that doesn't feel very good. Like our bodies don't feel good,
Right.
right? And I think it's important to note that like there is a component of this conversation that is absolutely about labor, about gendered labor, right? It's absolutely about the ways that we see food and the preparation of food differently based on our cultural backgrounds and heritages. I grew up around a lot of African folk where that black man was cooking, right? Like my friends' parents, it wasn't just women in the house cooking, it was men cooking. And so I didn't really see this kind of, man brings home the bacon and the wife fried I didn't see that until I was watching like the Beavers, the Cleavers and whatever their names is. I don't know. Bringing Home the Beaver. I don't know. Whatever that white show is, right? That little
Lean It to
badass kid,
Beaver.
whatever. Right? So, I think that that's also very much a white coded concept, right? This idea that the man's supposed to just be sitting there drinking a beer and his food better be ready when his wife get home, and that's not even our shit. You know what I'm saying?
No.
That's not even our vibe. So I also just I think it's important to say, like, there's something here around our cultural understandings of who we are and getting back to our kind of lineage, getting back to our genealogy, getting back to who our people are. You know what I'm saying? That reminds me of the book, Camille Dungy's book, Soil. I think that's a good book to introduce here, just because she uses her relationship to the land to talk about her blackness. It's kind of a memoiristic tale. There's so many books that Black folks, Braiding Sweetgrass is another one, but so many books that Black folks and other folks of color have written that are about what it means to get back to the lane and then to rediscover yourself in that process. And I think that's what you're saying you did.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, and it didn't feel like it was missing. I felt I was fine. It was great not having to cook. It was great, especially when the person making the food is good, right? It wasn't like, "Oh, this food is terrible. I better
Yeah.
find out a way." No, the food's great. So I was like, "This is great setup for me," right? But it's one of those things where you don't realize what you're missing until you give it a try, until you kind of step
Yeah.
into those shoes, and you realize like I'm a more complete human being
Mm.
now than I was before.
Yeah.
As we talk about gender, I wish more men would kind of do that exploratory work, to become better, fuller human beings.
Yeah. And if we're talking about providing, that's how you provide.
Yeah.
That's how you provide, not just by having the money or the job or having the roof over people's head or whatever, but teaching folks how to take care of themselves, right? Like taking care of folks, showing up for folks, being in community with folks, fellowshipping with folks. Like, I think it's a beautiful thing that you and I on any night can say, "Oh, you want to make that? You want to make that? Is it your night? Is it my night? Is it?" That's how you show up, right? That's how you provide. Our kids have never ever worried that somebody wasn't gonna be able to make dinner one night. You know what I'm saying? Like, and whenever we say leftovers, it's not like, oh God. Even now they do the same thing. It's like our son went off to college, he's cooking at his dorm. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not foreign to him. And I think that's really what it means to provide and to show love for people is to really be really committed to the fullness. It's
Yeah.
back to, bell hooks, right? Love is an action verb. And it's really being committed to somebody else's spiritual growth. And if we're not doing that, I don't know what we're doing.